Whether it's because a player feels like they're being disrespected or not getting paid enough money, there are plenty of reasons currently in the NFL that players aren't a big fan of their own team.
You never want to be sacked that many times. 400 times basically is 400 too many. So I think that's a big thing that we got to fix. That's got to be fixed.
NFL players butting heads with management table is a tale as old as time. Anytime that there is that much money at stake with such massive egos involved, it's almost a foregone conclusion that at some point there will be disagreements. So today we take a look at 12 NFL players who flat out hate their current team. There's probably no better place to start here than with the two best players in the league at their respective positions. Aaron Rodgers and Devonte Adams, both of whom are apparently sick and tired of dealing with the suits in Green Bay. Which shouldn't come as a shock to anyone who's been following along with the NFL during the offseason. I mean, even Zadarius Smith is fed up with the Packers front office because of their decision to exercise an automatic conversion option that gives him a massive $28.1 million cap hit for 2022. Something that all but guarantees that he'll be released or traded after the season, unless he reluctantly accepts an extension in Green Bay. Just a classic Packers move. Anyway, back to the aforementioned stars in Green Bay. Starting with Rodgers, who after his most recent press conference has made it abundantly clear why he's sick of the Packers brass. And surprisingly, it had little to do with his own money, but rather the team's mistreatment of its former players.
I wanted to help the organization maybe learn from them some of the mistakes in the past, in my opinion, about the way that some of the outgoing veterans were treated, and just the fact that we didn't retain a number of players that I felt like were core players to our foundation, our locker room, high character guys. I'm talking about Charles Woodson, Jordy Nelson, Julius Peppers, Clay Matthews, Randall Cobb, James Jones, John Kuhn, Brett Good, TJ Lang, Brian Balaga, Casey Hayward, Micah Hyde, guys who were exceptional players for us, but great locker room guys, high character guys. Many of them who weren't offered a contract at all, or were extremely lowballed, or were, maybe in my opinion, not given the respect on the way out that guys of their status and stature and high character deserved.
The Packers are clearly trying to make amends now, as it looks like they've realized the error in their ways, and they traded for one of Aaron Rodgers' former running mates who he happened to mention on the list during his presser, Randall Cobb. This should go a long way as a peace offering.
It's been fun to spend time with him before he moves out of my house and the wife and kids come up. We've had a good time, talking ball and catching up on life the last week or so.
Devonte Adams, on the other hand, well, he's just sick and tired of being underappreciated himself. He, like Rodgers, did a really nice job of expressing his grievances in a professional, eloquent way during the team's press conference.
I'm not going to get too far into details about how, the numbers and all of that stuff, but I like to say that I, have outperformed my past contract or my current contract, and I'm going to keep elevating. So, at the end of the day, however it pans out that way, and I'm gonna think long and hard about how everything goes. But at this point, like I said, I'm here for my teammates. I'm really excited to be back. I told you guys before, I'm a man of my word, so. I'm here and I'm ready to play.
And while that sounds nice on the surface, the subtext reads something to the effect of, "I'm the best wide receiver in the game, now pay me like it." Adams has a point too. He has been Rodgers' only reliable receiving target during the last couple of seasons, and really, he has accomplished some pretty mind-boggling numbers during that stretch. Only time will tell whether or not Adams and Green Bay will be able to work it out. But man, does it sound like the Packers management have some serious amends to make with its star wide receiver. He's not the only wideout that's found himself going against the grain in his team facilities. Both Cole Beasley and Michael Thomas are in rather peculiar circumstances in their respective locker rooms too. Michael Thomas has been butting heads with his team since last season, and not just with management either. He got into multiple altercations with the coaching staff during his injury-plagued 2020 campaign, and he even earned himself a one-game suspension after he got into a fight with another player during practice, before proceeding to act disrespectfully to the coaches trying to keep the peace. To make matters worse, Saints head coach Sean Payton made public comments recently regarding the way that Thomas scheduled the surgery he needed on his ailing ankle.
Well, look, it appears we're going to have to spend some time without him. It's disappointing, and we'll work through it with the other players that are here. But the surgery took place, and obviously, we would have liked that to have happened earlier than later. And quite honestly, it should have.
Can you explain? I mean, was there a lack of communication in between, or?
Nope. I'm going to leave it at that.
Yeah, it really sounds like they're just one big happy family down in New Orleans right now. I would have loved to be a fly on the wall when Thomas saw his mercurial head coach making those kinds of comments about him. I have little doubt that can't guard Mike did not take too kindly to them. Cole Beasley, on the other hand, is in a much different sort of conflict up in Western New York, where he has appointed himself as a spokesperson against the NFL's new COVID-19 vaccination policies. He has maintained throughout that he is not an anti-vaxxer, but rather pro-choice on the matter. But if you look at his tweets on the matter, that seems pretty debatable to me. Nevertheless, he's put himself in a pretty sticky situation in which I'm sure some of the other players on his team are uncomfortable with, as evidenced by two of his fellow wide receivers, Stefan Diggs and Emmanuel Sanders' behavior on social media following his pro-choice press conference. And I can't imagine that management is happy that their team has become a focal point in this touchy subject. All in all, just a mess of a situation between Beasley and the rest of his team. Moving on from the disgruntled wide receivers, we have a couple of other guys who, like Aaron Rodgers, are supposed to be the franchise quarterback in their respective city, yet now it seems like they would literally prefer to be anywhere else. First up, Russell Wilson, Seattle's golden child, who has apparently grown tired of not having enough say in the team's overarching strategy.
Are you involved in personnel decisions? Have you been involved in personnel decisions?
I think that dialogue should happen more often, in my opinion.
Apparently, during the 2020 season, before a Thursday night football matchup with the Arizona Cardinals, Russ outlined his own ideas for how to help stabilize and bolster the offense. His suggestions were dismissed, multiple sources told The Athletic, and Wilson stormed out of the meeting room. Wilson is also tired of Seattle trying to patch together an offensive line off the scrap heap every year, instead of, actually investing some real resources towards it. Desean Watson, on the other hand, well, his fall from grace in Houston has a whole lot more going on behind the scenes than squabbling over the team's offensive schemes like Wilson. To some degree, it is a non-football issue for him. His stormy relationship with Houston, in all honesty, is probably the least of his concerns. I mean, regardless of whether he's innocent or guilty of the accusations that have been surrounding him for months now, you have to think that the stress of that situation is a little bit more of a pressing concern for him. And once that settles down, it seems unlikely that he'll ever really reach a true resolution with the Texans organization that drafted him back in the 2017 NFL Draft. Assuming that Houston's quarterback even wants to stay, which honestly is pretty unlikely, considering the rumors swirling that say the team's effectively decided to run the NFL version of a political smear campaign against its quarterback, instead of trying to find any sort of peace when he initially demanded a trade. There are people in and around the NFL that believe that the team strategically leaked the information about Desean's accusers after he demanded the trade, in an effort to effectively make him untradeable. While that remains unconfirmed, it does feels like a if there's smoke, there is fire situation. And if that's true, that's a pretty good reason for Desean Watson to hate his team. There are also a couple of high-profile defensive backs that are none too happy with their teams at the moment. Xavier and Stefan Gilmore. Howard released an epic no-tap style press release demanding either a trade or a new contract, which is never a good sign for the state of affairs between a player and his team. Howard kinda has a point too. He has massively outperformed his contract, and considering the fickle nature of the business, he's smart to try and capitalize while his stock is at an all-time high. The Dolphins would be wise to get this resolved too. He has been a bright spot for them over the past few seasons, and losing him would be a major setback in this organization's progression. Stefan Gilmore is largely in the same camp as Howard. The 2019 Defensive Player of the Year is headed into the last year of his deal, and, like Howard, is looking for more money. He too has a point. It's kind of crazy that a player of his caliber is not even in the top 20 of cornerback contracts. And it isn't just the D-backs getting snippy with their teams over contracts either. Chandler Jones, the talented pass rusher for the Arizona Cardinals, recently made his feelings known that he wants out of Arizona because of his deal. In Chandler's case, it is a little bit more questionable in my opinion. He has been one of the best pass rushers in the league, but he played just 5 games last year due to injury, and he is due $15.5 million in what will be the final year of his deal. He might be better served to go out there, line up across from JJ Watt, and put up some huge numbers. Then honestly, the money will take care of itself. It's much of the same for Zach Ertz in Philly, where he's tired of not being given a worthy extension offer from the team. According to MSN, he's been wearing inside-out practice shorts during camp that conceal the team logo. That doesn't sound like a player who's happy with his team to me. He's also likely sick of seeing Philadelphia diminish his targets in favor of Dallas Goedert. I would certainly not be surprised if he has a new home before the 2022 season kicks off. Finally, we have Kyle Van Noy, who has found himself in a very interesting situation this year. He's coming off of one of his best seasons with 6 tackles after recording career highs with 10 tackles for loss and 6 pass deflections. But he's also returning to a former team, the New England Patriots, an organization that he made some choice remarks about last year after eliminating them from the playoffs. Perhaps it was sour grapes, as he was none too pleased with the way his initial departure from New England played out. But nevertheless, it will be interesting to see how he's received by his teammates and coaches upon his return to Foxborough. But which current NFL player do you think hates their team the most? Join us in the comment section below. If you like this video and learned a thing or two, clicking the like button helps out a ton. And hey, we appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, subscribing is a great idea because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching and we'll see you guys next time.